What's up, you guys? Welcome to Legacy Decoded. This is a podcast about building boldly, thinking long term, and using AI to architect a life business that actually matters. I'm Kalei Poteat. This is where vision meets execution. Short term hacks take a backseat to legacy level impact. And today's guest is someone who truly embodies that ethos. We have Mr. Lechon Kirb. He's a brand strategist, a speaker. He's the head of partnership at TEDx Orlando. He helps leaders build brands that mean something, brands that connect, resonate, and stand the test of time. So if you ever wondered how to craft a brand that's bigger than you, a brand that shapes culture instead of chasing trends, this conversation is for you. LaShawn, I just want to appreciate you hopping on with us today, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. Excited to have this conversation for sure.
Well, for people that haven't heard of you just yet, man, can you just introduce yourself, how you got started in, your career and what you've been working on?
Yeah. So, kind of as you stated, like I'm a brand strategist. I guess one way that you can kind of describe my journey. But the real truth of it is that I'm in a constant pursuit of exploring freedom and what that means in our day-to-day life. Right? And I learned this an early lesson, when I was about 6 years old. So first of all, I grew up in Pittsburgh, and my mom had a business and other things. She wasn't really around that much at that time. But anyways, just one day I was playing hide and go seek with my sister and my cousin, and they got like this bright idea. They were going to go hide in the attic, which is what we would normally do. But we also had this like super dark basement that almost nobody would go to. And I thought to myself, you know what? If I go there, no one's going to find me. And I was trying about that. So I go down to the basement, and my mom had this like old like refrigerator down there, and I like pulled out the racks and everything like that. And I climbed in the refrigerator trying to like find this hide spot. And while I'm trying to get situated, I knocked the refrigerator over on the door. So now I'm trapped in the basement. I'm in this refrigerator. I'm screaming. I'm calling for air. And honestly, I thought that was it. Yeah, luckily, I made enough noise that my mom had just happened to be home that day, came down, kicked the thing open, and got me out of there. But that was the moment that I discovered for myself that I needed freedom like I need oxygen.
Mhm.
You think they're like the same to me. So all of my pursuits with business and creativity, all of those things have really been in the pursuit of freedom and then how to get it for myself and then share it with other people.
Mm, that's pretty solid, man. It's an interesting story too. How old were you again when that happened?
This would have been like first grade, like
Okay,
really early. Yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah, and that led me into like all of my stuff, man. It led me into the Marine Corps. I spent 8 years in the Marine Corps, going there with my ideas of what freedom meant at that time too. And then when I left, I got into things like creatively that I thought were, just in alignment with that track. So my whole journey so far has really been about that. Luckily, like I've been fortunate enough to come across some really brilliant people and some really good understandings that helped me kind of up level what I was doing in terms of my thought process in my business. And all of it has been about how to make it more scalable and essentially monetize whatever your ideas are.
Gotcha. And I know, what kind of shaped your view, that branding is, about legacy and not just marketing? Was there a moment when you realized like impact was a little bit more important than just image?
Well, I never really had the view that image by itself independently was like the thing that should be in pursuit of.
Mm,
Uh, More than anything, what's pretty clear to me is that if you don't have enough energy around your own narratives, if you're not in front of what your narratives are, your stories are, your journey is, then somebody else will attempt to tell that story or bastardize that story. So for me, branding was more of a vehicle to elevate your profile. How do you get more awareness? How do you get to really understand what you've been through or really understand what you mean?
mhm.
Um, and then if you're not the one that's like kind of behind that engine, then it's the power to even tell your brand, right? And most people do something actually pretty interesting. Um, they put in the work, they work hard toward their thing, but that doesn't mean that they're doing all the other things that would get them the right awareness. It doesn't mean that they talk about themselves
Mm.
in the way that would truly empower that dream. So for me, it was just a natural fit. So yeah, the image part is a part of it because it's kind of that first layer when people decide if they trust you or if they like you, any of those kinds of things. But then once they start kind of moving past those kind of superficial layers, then we get into the meat and potatoes. Why does it mean a difference to me? Why does this matter to me? And ideally, those things need to be aligned.
Gotcha. So kind of like just separating the facts from the stories we tell about them, right? Um, have you seen this play out in branding where, founders, the limiting stories kind of hold their brands back? How do you help clients kind of rewrite those narratives?
Sometimes it's about rewriting narratives, but more than anything, it seems to me that it's more about really having a sense of your true value. That's really hard to do. Like if you're, let's say you start a company, right, and you want to brand it, you want to put it out, create logos, websites, all this kind of stuff. Um, if you don't really understand the value of what that means to who you're providing this solution to, it's very difficult for you to get paid what you're supposed to.
Mm.
You're not going to get compensated to the degree that you're solving the problem if you don't understand why that's valuable to them, right? And so you need some kind of like ability to look into what that means for who you're solving it for. And so this is why the brand piece is really, really important because if you don't look the part, like in terms of like your logo, website, how you command your stuff, how you use your language,
Mm.
they're not gonna believe you getting. And so really it's just a harder climb, a harder climb. Why I really care about like the value piece is like I know firsthand that you could go out and create like extraordinary imagery and still not make it mean anything for your life, Like so when I backing up a little bit, when I was in the Marine Corps, I had a buddy sold me like an old phone camera. And I would kind of take it on our trade missions and things like that. Became this like way that I creatively in the military. It's a little thing that I left the seed with me. And then when I left the military, that was kind of the natural progression, got into branding, taking photos, and all that kind of stuff.
Mm.
And I put in a lot of work on that, but eventually, like my work got into like editorials and billboards. It got picked up by large brands, Universal, BT, Centric, VH1, all these different platforms. But I wasn't actually getting paid very much to do that, even though they were getting millions and millions of impressions on these large platforms. I didn't understand at the time, A, how these licensing deals and things like that work. I also didn't understand monetization because I was putting all my focus into how to become better at my craft, not necessarily how to like expand my craft and make more of a difference in my life and my business. And so that took much more, many more years of like development. But it wouldn't have mattered anyway if I didn't understand that I was actually solving a high value problem for these high value organizations. So I think that it matters if you have a way to look at that and understand what that is, and then how that plays a part into your own business, your own life, and your own mindset.
Mm. Nice, man. Nice. So you work at um TED, right? Orlando. And, I've watched countless interviews with TED Talks. I believe it's all about kind of amplifying ideas worth spreading, right? What have you learned about legacy from those speakers? And how do you vet partnerships so they kind of align with deep values and not just hype?
Yeah, I mean, a real truth is that you need a way to cut through all the noise, especially at this point. Um, because there's so much stuff with AI, there's so much clutter on social media, and it's kind of always been a bit busy, but it's now more busy than it's ever been, right? So if you don't have something really special that can cut through the noise, it's just kind of hard to reach people. And so, yeah, your ideas are one thing, but how you convey those ideas, why this means something to you and to others, I think is a layer. So, um, yeah, I mean, it's really about being able to elevate your profile, like getting in front of the right people so that they get your message, and then you can convey those ideas into actions, into vehicles that can make a difference in the world.
Hmm.
And well, you know, my role as like the head of partnerships is really about identifying the organizations that see the world the way that we do, and then create these channels for them to fund these ideas and help elevate these conversations. So yeah, I do think it's really I think it's really special work, because if you're once again, if you're not in front of your own narrative and you're not really giving people enough context to understand why what you're doing is so special, no one's going to tell it for you. So you need an opportunity to crack those doors open.
Hmm. Gotcha, man. Yeah, we are seeing AI disrupt a lot of the branding and marketing on social platforms right now. Um, how do brands kind of keep that integrity, when AI makes it kind of easy to kind of fake that authenticity for the most part?
You know, I don't think it's that you make you feel something or ads are going to go away.
Mhm.
You know, and you really know this when you see someone that's truly special, like they're really special with their talent, they're really their mind and the way that they think about things is just completely different. Uh, there's definitely a lot more noise, but if we're being really fair, most of it's pretty mediocre. It's mediocre because it's not really coming from a central core place.
Mm.
It's not real to their journey. It's not really who they are. Like, and so I do think that it is going to become noisier with AI. And by the way, I'm not against AI in any way. I
Right.
think that like if you use it in the most sensible ways, it can amplify your message. But if you're just going to throw stuff out there, I mean, eventually it's going to fall on deaf ears. It's not really going to impact people. It's not really going to make them feel anything about you individually. And so I think that can just defeats the purpose, right? But how do brands really kind of stay aligned? I think that if they really dig into why they're doing this stuff in the first place, why do they care? Why is what they're doing with their organization really mean something to the world? What painstaking actions have they taken to make this more special or more dynamic? And telling the all the context matters, I think,
Mhm.
at this stage. The context matters. Why did you get into this? Why do you care? Why should I believe that you care about me? Because if you don't care about me or you don't care about them, why should I care about you? And we see this happening with certain brands. We see this happening with, Target and some of these other brands. They have, with their words and with their copywriting and with their campaigns, communicated essentially, I don't really care about you. And so there's a counterswing when that happened. You're not bigger than the program. Essentially, like if you don't really care and it's just like we're just giving you our money, then we can start voting in a different way with our dollars, right? And so I think the context really matters. And the more that people dive into their individual context or their brand context, we can still cut through all of the garbage to make a difference for others.
Solid, man. And I know we spoke recently about the landmark forum. I took a look at it a little bit, and I noticed it talked about living from possibility, not just reacting to circumstances. What possibilities are you living into right now, and what does your legacy look like while you're still building it?
Yeah, I mean, Landmark Forum, brilliant, brilliant work, brilliant work. Um, I'm really, we're in a conversation about what my possibilities are, because the life that I've been crafting and developing over time is a life that I would have dreamt of having at one stage, right?
Yeah.
Like, you got to figure, like, I grew up in like gang neighborhoods, and I played hide and seek at the dumpster when I was young. Like I went to sleep hungry many, many, many nights. I sold my sister's shoes for food at one point. So it's like I really know what it means to come from like hard, really difficult upbringing, and then developing something that's a reflection of what your dream is. And so the landmark forum for me it's really powerful because it really helps you gain command of your words and your language and the way that that looks in your life. One of the biggest lessons that I think that I learned from it was like my relationship to my word in regards to integrity. you know um and not integrity in the right and wrong sense, right? Like integrity in the sense that if you don't do certain things, you can compromise their structure. Like if you sit at a table and the legs are wobbly, the table's not going to function as designed. Not really. right? Like maybe it'll kind of be there, but it's just not going to be solid. You're not going to necessarily trust it very well. And so our word actually does that with our relationships. And that same thing is a reflection in business, whether people can they can really trust you, they can really build with you, they really feel it, and your actions kind of follow that. So a lot of that I developed in the Landmark Forum.
Mm,
Um, just gaining awareness of it. Like some people just say stuff, they don't really mean it, right? Because their relationship with the word is very weak. You can develop it, right? You can get better once you start gaining more awareness of like when you say stuff and you don't do it, when you say stuff and you don't really believe it for yourself. When you develop a practice of not really taking the actions that you said,
mm,
starts to deteriorate the results that you can get in your life. But when you start doing it the opposite way, even in small things like I'm going to go on a walk today, I'm going to send out a 10 email, whatever it is,
mm,
you can start building the infrastructure for not only getting results so that you can, these things are measurable, but also you start to develop a relationship to your word that becomes as concrete as any wall, any table, it becomes a thing when you say it because you not only believe it, but your actions follow that. I
mm.
hope that made sense.
No, 100%. What's a good time you've actually saw someone's entire trajectory kind of change just because they started taking their commitments and promises to themselves more seriously?
I mean, I've seen it many, many times. And maybe that's because, like, in my consultancy, we've worked with like really, high achieving people, but they have a lot of things in common. It's not in a vacuum that have become extremely successful. They have a lot of common traits. Like their mindset is very strong. They care about their health. They care about others. They believe that they can do something meaningful in the world. They believe that they can make a lot of money and have freedom and take care of their families. And so I think that there's common threads. So I've seen people transform lots of things over time because, like, even with like I said in my consultancy, we've helped probably upwards of 30,000 people or more kind of figure out what they're doing and how they make sense of it and how to become best-selling authors and how to monetize their dreams and stuff like that. And so I find myself in many many conversations about this kind of thing. So
Mm,
I've seen it a lot. More than anything, what's so great to me is that you don't have to start from anything. You don't have to start from anything. You can go get some skills and start skill stacking.
mm.
And I just find that like if you get in the right environments with the right people and you find yourself in the right kind of conversations, they can elevate how you even perceive yourself and the things that you get out of life. So yeah, I've seen it a lot for sure.
Gotcha, 100%. So, do you think entrepreneurs kind of underestimate how much their language shapes their culture? How can a leader's casual words or promises either build trust or erode it?
Well, it's always easier to do with one of those things.
Mm,
It's just that we're not measuring it.
mm,
If we were measuring the times that we said something and we didn't do it, or we said something to someone else and it had a negative impact, how we would look at our relationships will be completely different. It's just that we're not measuring it.
mhm.
You know. So to answer your question, I think it's really in your benefit to become more consciously aware of everything that you say.
Right.
Not like then you said it, like, how is what you're saying validated? Is it true? Are you going to make it true by your actions? Are you going to make it true by your heart? If you're not going to make it true, then maybe that's not something that you should say because there's always this kind of like flow of what's happening is with your relationships, either like increasing your closeness, your capacity to connect with people, or it's creating space and it's widening the gaps between and developing relationships. And why this really matters, right? Because it's not purely about how effective you are personally in your skill set or whatever you're able to do. It's really about like, are you able to get people enrolled in who you are? Are they going to believe it? Are they going to be interested in engaging and building with you? Because if they are, then your skills, your personal skills matter less and less and less
Mm,
because you then have access to everyone else's resources and their skills and who they know and who they think you would be good to connect with, right? Like, so it's not as hard of a journey if you can connect with people such that they want to bring you into the world. It's not, you don't have to figure it out. You don't have to know the software or how to brand or what's the sales tactics or how to run Facebook. Like, you don't need to know everything if you can get at least to the point where you're building with people and you can rally others that want to build with you, that have their own varying skill sets and relationships and environments they can pull you into. So to me, it's more about like developing yourself so that you attract the right people into your life.
Gotcha. 100%, man. That's really awesome. So, okay, so I think a lot of people can kind of be sloppy with their language a lot of times. And you said a really key thing. I'm a big data guy, so measuring really caught my attention. So typically when you think about measuring your when I first hear the word, I'm thinking about spreadsheets and maybe trackers and is there a way to kind of actively measure, or is that more of a just a conscious thing of just being more conscious of the things you say and measuring it that way?
Well, I mean, there are things that you can measure
Mhm,
with things that you say. Like, for example, if you say you're going to call such and such on this particular day,
mhm,
like it's measured. If you put it, did you put it in your calendar? Like, did you set up an infrastructure so that your words actually come to life when you say them? And if you don't take any actions that create structure around what your word is, then it's very hard to measure. Right. So my suggestion is start creating structures around what you say is going to happen. And so then you can measure, did you do that? How consistently did you do that? Did you do that 7 days a week? Did you fall off this month? Like, then you can look at, okay, I did 7 out of 10. That's not good enough.
mm,
I need to be a 10 out of 10. I did 3 out of 10. That's not going to work. Right. Like to get the desired result.
mm.
So yeah, you need to create an infrastructure around whatever your word is that you say you're going to do, even with yourself, especially with yourself, so that you become someone that believes yourself when you say things, and others respond to you in that way once you start to develop yourself as someone that does what they say. Um, yeah, so it can be measured, but you're going to need to create structures around that.
Gotcha. And just curious, man, what does like a typical day for you look like?
A typical day for me is a lot of emails, a lot of phone calls, going to the gym. I'm in a lot of conversations for lots of different kinds of things. But yeah, typically my days look like a lot of emails and phone calls,
Mm,
and podcasts, things like that. Like I'm now finding myself in a lot more like interviews and things like that as I'm intentionally raising my own profile because I feel like I have something meaningful to say.
mm.
And even if I don't necessarily believe that, I believe that for myself. Like I've put it into work, I've got like a pretty interesting journey, and I have lots of things that I put out with the intention of making other people's lives better. So um, I'm now raising my own profile and doing what I say that people should do if they want to make a difference in their own lives.
Mhm. Gotcha. And outside of AI, well, where do you see, because I'm a big AI guy, where do you see AI best fitting into the brand storytelling or just in content creation as a whole?
Yeah, it's layered, right? So a couple different things that I think are going to be fundamental shifts when it comes to AI.
Mhm,
One is that in most cases, people don't own their own likeness. They don't own their identity. It's not copywritten. It's not trademarked. They don't have particular things in place to even really leverage how AI is supporting them. And so this is kind of fundamentally problematic because if you don't own it, then people can do whatever they want with your likeness. They can
mm,
run ads as you or as Joe Rogan and say that you are co-signing this brand or whatever, right? So there's a lot of like it's early, that I'm. So how people are handling it right now is kind of Swiss cheese. There's a lot of areas of opportunity that you need to reinforce, but I would say like really getting a hold on what's happening with your intellectual property and then putting structures in place so that you own assets of your own intellectual property. I think is going to be really important.
mm,
The other aspect of this is that how your data is being used and leveraged is also going to be really important as well, because um, the real truth of it is that your data is highly monetizable, but not to you, because you don't know how to monetize it, and most people don't, right? So it's highly monetizable for organizations, and because you are not only a contributor, but if you are an owner of that asset as a claimant,
Mhm.
then all of a sudden now you are an investor in the thing that is increasing the evaluations for these larger organizations. And there is technology coming that will allow you to be able to, like we were talking about earlier, monitor and measure
Mhm.
how much of an impact that is. Like if you're someone that's putting out a lot of content and you're getting millions of impressions or getting millions of views and things like that, what does that then mean in terms of value to that platform? And then what is like the equivalent, what you should be compensated for that, right? So your identity, your intellectual property, and your data usage in relation to AI, I think is going to be like a big part of the future. And then how they track that is most likely going to be connected to blockchain. So,
Mm.
what I see is the future of this in terms of like the value of the interactions, the impressions, and what that means as an impact. And then how are you going to be compensated for it? So I think that those worlds are connected, and we'll see that in the really near future.
Gotcha. Interesting, man. Blockchain. I'd like to dive into that a little bit. How do you feel like blockchain is actually going to play a part in that? Is that more like smart contracts? Is that because I listened to Mr. Peter, I want to say Peter Neves talk at Creator Hub, and he spoke about IP and AI and how to actually, think about that whole process. So that had me really, really thinking about that. And yeah, just to jump back to the question, how do you feel like blockchain will actually play a part into, people's data and IP when it comes to, AI?
Yeah, I mean, smart contracts and things like that are just going to be a part of how we function in daily life. It's not right now. It just sounds like very foreign to most people and that kind of thing. How do I think that this is going to cross over to blockchain? Well, I think it's going to cross over when we're talking about like the finances of data, right,
Mhm.
and the ownership of the data. Like your the value, and I don't want to get super deep into it, throw people off the rails, but like the value of what your data is worth is going to be tokenized, right?
Mhm.
It's going to be tokenized. It is going to be financed and leveraged and traded up and down, in and out. It's just that if you are on the early stage of ensuring that your IP and your data is basically it's tracked in the right way, it's going to the right wallets, it has the right chain of commands,
Mhm.
right? Then you're going to be able to benefit from the momentum of the growth that you're contributing to specific platforms.
Mhm.
And it's that transparency. And ideally, it's going to be interoperable from all of the different kinds of ways that you can interact with social platforms and your data. And not just social platforms, traditional platforms, Google, Facebook, um, and others, right? And ChatGPT, right? So there's going to be a way that all of this is interconnected and then measured, and then you're compensated for your contribution, for your impact on their platform. So I do think that that's going to be tracked, because the transparency of that is going to, the best technology we have available to track that transparency in the financial exchange up and down, in and out, is going to be blockchain. So it's an interesting time to be alive for sure.
Wow. Okay. That's interesting because I have a good friend, Mr. Tim. He has a company, Truckology, and he's working on the blockchain right now as far as helping drivers with their pay, right? So he just invited me to a board yesterday, actually. So I'm super excited to kind of dive into that and give some value where I can around that. Definitely interested. And we could talk for hours about blockchain. He's just truly immersed inside of that space right now. So that's super cool. Well, LaShawn, I'd love to know, man, with everything that you are working on currently, where do you kind of project, or where do you see yourself in like the next 6 to 12 months from now?
Next 6 to 12 months. I'll be getting much more engaged with like stages and things like that. Obviously, I'll be dealing with a lot of partnership deals with TEDx and that kind of thing. We're also going to be bringing a lot of other opportunities to Orlando. Like, we're working on some film production things. We're working on some other events that are outside of TEDx. We're bringing technology here and artists here and then music and entertainment. So I'll be spending a lot of time with that. So yeah, my next year is definitely accounted for in regards to that. But yeah, I'll be doing a lot of time with that, and then ideally I'll be cranking out I have two books that I'm working my way through right now. One is called A Culture of Equity, and it's like really helping people think around the value that they provide to the world, and then how they can go and get equity for that, right? And then there's impact scaling, which is literally about like creating a life that you love by setting it up with alignment and congruency to what you desire, and also how to create a whole ecosystem around that. So I'll be pushing myself through finishing out my books and then, definitely speaking on more stages about these ideas.
Nice, man. Can we dive into impact scaling right now? Is that a topic we can talk about?
We could talk about it. Yeah. We can talk about some.
Okay, so I know a lot of it come from a lot of your perspective and views. I would say if somebody was just jumping into that book, what could they expect um to gain from going through it?
Yeah. I mean, the big thing that it's really designed to do is to help you kind of like to our earlier point, really measure what you're putting in place. But with you and your interest in your life as a central compass. You know what I'm saying? Like if you want your relationships to be a particular way, if you want to be able to network or grow your business, or you want to spend your time in a way that's not really taking away from it all the time,
Mm,
you have to be intentional.
mm,
And if you're just saying this as an idea or a thought, and you think just watching a bunch of YouTube videos or TikTok videos is going to solve it for you, it isn't. So this book is designed to create the actions, intentional design around um, what you want your life to be, essentially. Like,
mhm.
so that's what the impact is. Like, how do you design it such that your family life is in alignment with the way that resonates with you, your legacy, you're intentionally building your legacy for what you want that to be in the future, and then really taking the actions that are going to make sense in the in between.
Okay, perfect. Perfect, man. Yeah, I'm excited for that book, man. When do you have like a timeline on it? Is it when's
I
it
do
coming?
have I do have a timeline on it. I'm not going to release a date yet, but I have a timeline on it because I have actions I need to produce as well.
Mm.
But yeah, I'm very excited about it. I've been asked about it a lot lately, actually, and I do think it's probably one of the best ways that I can contribute to the world and like how people kind of get after the thing that they really want.
Mm. Who are a few people that kind of influenced your life? Was it mentors, coaches that you had, um, some role model?
Yeah, I mean, probably biggest influence, to be honest, was my mom. Um, she was just so incredible, man. She just when I was young, she started like an entertainment television show, and she would interview like Sammy Davis Jr. and Lionel Richie and all these like superstars and stuff like that. Uh, just an incredible. She was in 7 different editions of Who's Who in American Women.
Mm,
She was inducted to the Wall of Tolerance by Rosa Parks. Like she was really just kind of like a very dynamic character, and so having many different kind of conversations with her, not only about business and creativity, but also like spirituality
mm,
and just general care for humanity. Um, I feel as though like I was brought up under the right tutelage in regard to that. And but and over time, like I've read so many I've read so many books. I've done so many different things in terms of spirituality, meditations, and
mm,
grew up in church and just all kind of different things. Stoicism, many different kinds of books on stoicism,
yeah.
power of your language, power of the mind, like all kinds of different things. So have I had lots of kinds of mentors? So many that like I can't even like break them down.
Yeah.
But mostly, I think once you get to a certain point where you are actively really getting in touch with what your thoughts are, and what your the results have been to the things that you believe, then you start going to like a different threshold. But I'm learning all the time. I'm always learning. I don't actually consume much stuff that isn't like designed to empower me,
Mhm.
you know, empower my mind, sharpen my blade, so I definitely have learned a lot over the years with various different kinds of things. Yeah.
Solid, solid, man. Okay, perfect. So mom was definitely a huge influence. Sounds like she was definitely a creative and kind of showed you a lot when you were I'd say growing up, right? A young age. Do you feel like your those circumstances with just your mother with playing a huge role in influencing you? Do you feel like people that didn't have that type of influence growing up is able to kind of reach the certain heights that they are looking to obtain if they had a different upbringing? So I know, one side of your story was, you know what it's like to, struggle, right? And then you've had a mother that was very influential. Do you feel like people that may have gone through that same struggle or but didn't have that influence, do you feel like they would be able to still be able to attain, the life that they're ultimately looking for?
Yeah. I mean, 100%. I mean, so much of what we build is what we think,
Mm,
like what we say about ourselves, you know? Like I went to 14 different schools. Most of those schools were terrible.
mm,
And the teachers just thought like I wouldn't make it to 25. But what do they know? Like who gets to say?
mm,
Like who gets to say how your life goes?
mm,
Ultimately, it's you. And once you push yourself outside of whatever the conditions are,
mm.
you stop feeling sad for yourself for what you don't have or what don't feel jealous about what anyone else has. Like you just get to work. You know what I mean? Like you just get to work. And so I don't feel any particular way about any conditions, you know? Like I don't feel any way about conditions, what people think about black people or what they didn't have or what they had. Like I didn't like it's not like that. So once you remove all of the things that would be barriers to your progress, you can stop making excuses for them, even if they're hard. Like it doesn't matter if they're hard. Not really. It matters if you can get past them. And so what I would say to people that like, and by the way, let me back up. This isn't a pull yourself up by the bootstraps
Mm.
type of conversation. It's just that once you get past everything that you perceive as difficult, as a barrier to the thing that you desire in your life, it no longer has the same kind of power over you. If you don't feel as though like you're stopped because you can't get in college or you don't have the resources, you don't have a car, I'm saying that you just do what it takes until you can get to enough of a threshold where you can get other kinds of support. You can get to a better atmosphere. You can get around other people. You can start rallying and creating things, right? Like outside of the conditions until you can change them. And anyone can do that.
Got you. Where's a good starting point for someone that may be watching this and just kind of feels discouraged, or maybe they don't know where to seek the type of help or resources that can get them, through that process? Where do they kind of start?
Yeah, good question. I think it's good to just start. Like, just start.
Mm,
Like you don't have to have like the right direction or be going down the right path. I mean, I've changed my direction a million times. It doesn't even matter.
mm,
It never mattered because I'm not ever starting from scratch again. I might be starting from zero, but I'm not starting from scratch because I'll start from all the experience, all the things I've read, all the failures, all the things that I've interpreted, and then I use that into my new direction. So you just start because at least if you move forward, you're farther down the line. Like,
mm,
you know what I mean? You don't have to have it all right. I think is the main thing here. I'm not even. I don't care about being right very much.
mm,
Actually, I care about being correct, and those aren't the same things. Like I don't need to emotionally defend what I think something should be like if the information and the results say different things. It's like, okay, this thing didn't work. Okay. Well, why did it not work? Did it not work because I didn't believe in it? Did it not work because I didn't do enough of it? Like, I can't tell you how many people I talk with. They just don't, they haven't put enough reps to say that it doesn't work.
Mm.
You know, if you're going to say, hey, let's say that you're trying to blow up on social media or something like that. And you're like, oh man, I didn't blow up on social media. How many videos did you do? I did 10. Okay. like, when you look at like people that you would look up to the most though,
Right.
and you ask them how many they're putting out, they'll say, I'm putting out, 100 videos a week, 200 videos a week. And you're like, okay, all right. I see why it's working for you.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, sometimes it's just about putting in the reps, putting in the reps toward the thing that interests you most. But like that inner compass about like what truly connects with you, what truly resonates with you, I think is an important piece.
Mm.
I'll see videos sometimes because I'm on the internet. I see a lot of videos, and it'll just be people making videos about whatever. They're making videos that are like rage bait. They're making videos that they think are just funny or whatever. And the truth is that because it doesn't have alignment for the thing that they really want to do, it doesn't really even help them. Even if they get an audience or a bunch of views or impressions on that thing, but then do they always want to be the jokester or do they want to be the business person? Do they always want to be like kind of the whatever? Like, like you have to really create alignment there so that when you do attract the right tribe, the right eyeballs, and the right audience, now the thing that you want to put out to the world makes sense, especially if you have a solution. You don't want to just do things for attention and clicks and views. They're not going to convert into something that means something to your bank account and your dream, So um, just start and then start putting in the reps. Study the people that like you really resonate with. You like their message, you like their delivery, you like what their lifestyle looks like,
Mm.
and start doing everything you can to learn from them and then take those similar type of actions for yourself.
100%, man. Whose content kind of resonates with you right now?
I really like Stephen Bartlett's Diary of a CEO.
Mm.
I think it's really good. Not only do I think it's good, I think they're having the kind of conversations that resonate with me, like they're higher level conversations. It's brilliant people. It's breaking down um, all the context of what their life is beyond all the glitz and glamour in many cases. And I just think it's artfully done. Like it's filmed in a way that's something that's cinematic that you would want to watch it regardless of what the content was.
Mm.
And I think most things that people put out, they're just not done like that. It doesn't feel like this person is organic to this atmosphere that they're filming it. And so I think that they do it really, really well. Part of that is definitely their subjects, like who they have on and what their journeys are and things like that. But I really like the way that they highlight it. I think it's done really well and produced really well. And yeah, to me, it's super dope.
I love to know what is one of the hardest truths about yourself that you've had to face to get where you are?
The hardest truths about myself that I've had to face. Um, I'll be honest, I'm not emotionally tied to any hard truths about it. They're
Mm.
all hard truths,
Mm.
you know, to me.
Right.
They're all hard truths. Like the biggest hard truth I think that anyone is gonna need to face, and myself included, is that it anything that you want to do in life is probably gonna take you significantly longer than you think to get there. And every time that you're doing something, anything, it's in exchange for every other possibility. And that time just goes so fast. It goes so fast. The time that you think you're going to spend with your kids, the time you think you're going to spend with your family, it's just going to blow by you,
Mm.
you know? And if you're not really handling things in an optimal way, it eventually is going to land with you wasted time that you could have used better and could have like really made a difference for you. People used to ask me like how often I would go because I grew up in Pittsburgh. I mentioned that, but like how often I would go to Pittsburgh. I would usually say like, "Hey, man, I go, you know, 2 times a year or something like that." I would say that on a regular basis. And I've seen this. I think it was Jesse Itzler. I've seen this interview like many years back now that really changed my entire thinking on that. And it was like, it doesn't, life doesn't really look like that. It looks like you don't go see your family 2 times a year. You go and see these people maybe 20 more times, 30 more times.
Mm,
And it's, you've had that perspective on when you are going to spend time with the people that matter to you most or whatever, like, would that be enough? Would it be enough to say, hey, I'm going to see my mom again 20 more times and that's good? Like,
mm.
I would probably take completely different actions, probably call more, probably go more and be more intentional with our conversations. And it's like, the reality is, if you're not choosing to live your life like that, and you're gonna be on the receiving end of the hardship. And I've been there. Like these past couple of years ago, like all I could think was like, dang, how could I have been better? How could I have shown up?
Mm.
But the real truth is like it comes. It's going to be with everyone around you that you care about. It's going to be with your own health and your own youth. It's going to blow by you. So the hard truth is that time is going by all the time. And if you're not efficient with the way that you use it and effective with the way that you measure how you use it, you're going to waste it. And I don't want to do that.
That was a bar. That was a bar for sure. Wow. Okay. That's definitely a different perspective on that. Yeah, because I kind of felt the same way when I lost my grandmother. Um, just thinking back on the times that I should have been there a little bit more that I wasn't, right? So that definitely becomes a part of your reality once things like that happen. Um, so what does the word legacy really mean to you? Not as a concept, but actually in practice.
Uh, Legacy means a lot to me, man. Really, I just think that me personally, I just want to be proud of the way that I contributed.
Mm,
You know, um, I want to leave things better than I found them. I want to leave people better than I found them. I think that I have the belief that when I'm in the right rooms and I'm in the right conversations, I elevate those conversations.
mm,
And it's not necessarily my words, um, though it's not my words, but more than anything, my words, I believe, for me, are a reflection of the heart that I lead with, you know? And so legacy for me is literally about leaving it better than you found it. And I really make that a life practice.
mm. Gotcha. That's brilliant. And how has your definition of success changed in the last 5 years? Do you see success as something different?
Uh, Not really. Not, I mean, not really, not really. I just think when you get to a certain threshold of freedom for yourself, like things become marginal at that point, you know? Now, if there is an unlimited amount of interest that I have, but to my point earlier, like just because some opportunity comes up for you doesn't mean that it's worthy of your time. It doesn't mean that it's worth the trade
Mm,
that you would spend on it, right? And so, like, I think a part of the whole thing about success, it's like really getting to a point where you can decipher what's going to be a meaningful exchange. Not only just meaningful, but the right exchange for you.
mm,
Because, like if you get enough attention, you get in enough conversations, people have businesses and they've got opportunities and they want you to come participate in their this or their that. And, like you can just find yourself all over the place. And so that's why I think it's so important to like really define what your inner compass is for what would be a good thing for you to participate with, the kind of people you want to build with, the kind of conversations you want to be in, the atmosphere you want to be in.
mm,
Because it just can go any kind of way.
mm,
You know what I mean? And so, success for me, to answer your question, now is just like being fully in alignment with what I desire, and at least on the track of the things that truly resonate with me. That just makes sense. Like it makes sense, and you know, I think that that's a good way to do it. Now, I will say that like I do have the type of thinking around things that I'm always thinking, business wise at least. how how can this be scaled? How can this be monetized? How can you grow your audience from this? How can this help others? Like I'm always kind of thinking in this type of channel and this frequency.
Mm.
And so when things are presented to me, those are usually the filters that I run it through. It's something that's going to be highly intensive or highly, just kind of in conflict with my inner compass, and then I'm not doing it. Yeah, so I have full alignment with the things that resonate.
Awesome. Awesome. LaShawn, thank you for sharing not just strategies, man, but real truths. This conversation kind of reminded me that, legacy isn't about the logos we design or the titles we hold, right? It's about the promises we keep and the impact we make while we're actually here, man. Um, is there anything else that you would kind of want to just leave the audience with? Is how can people find you if they want to get in contact with you?
Yeah, I mean, you can find me on the web, probably LinkedIn. I'm much more active these days on LinkedIn, probably because of the TEDx thing.
Mm,
Is there something I wanted to leave with people? Because I'm getting a lot of messages lately ever since I got involved with TEDx, and people were asking me about like speaking and getting on stages and stuff like that. I would say to them, like, if you feel like called to use your voice or your ideas, reach out to me, right? Like let's get you submitted. Let's get your talk submitted or everything like that, so that you get a shot. Get a shot. Get in the door.
mm,
Like if you get a chance to speak, like you can do a lot of things with that. Like
mm.
you can leverage it. Like you can get on media. You could raise your profile. You can get like you can grow your audience. And so like if that speaks to you, reach out to me. I'll get you the information that you need. And yeah, don't let your voice go silent.
I love that. For everyone listening, I just want you to ask yourself, what story are you telling with your life? And is it the one you want to actually leave behind? Right. So if today's episode sparks something in you, share it with a friend, tag us, leave a comment below if it helps. These ideas kind of reach more builders like you. Of course, you can find LaShawn online, LinkedIn, connect with him, learn from him,
Yeah, either of those is good.
Instagram. Yeah. Most importantly, just act on what you heard today. Right. And until next time, I'm Kalei. This has been Legacy Decoded. Keep building boldly, keep thinking long term, and remember, legacy isn't what you leave, it's what you live. I appreciate you though, Sean. Thanks for hopping on, man.
Man, thank you for having me. It's been an honor to be here.
Absolutely, man. Thanks.